Good day to you wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us in this JAMPRO Export Matters webinar, where we will be exploring the theme, Unleashing Export Opportunities During and Post-COVID-19. My name is Conrad Robinson, Manager for JAMPRO Western Jamaica Regional Office, and I will be your moderator for today's session. Just before we begin, I invite you now to kindly pay keen attention to the ground rules, which we'll be following for this webinar. This webinar is being recorded. All video and audio have been turned off for participants. If you have questions, please type in the question box below. Your questions will be answered by one of the panelists live or responded to in the box. So let me just repeat. If you have questions, please type in the question box below. Your questions will be answered by one of the panelists live or responded to in the box below. Having said that, I will now invite Mr. Gabriel Heron, who is the Vice President of Marketing at JAMPRO, and he will be doing the welcome and opening remarks. Over to you, Gabriel.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to JAMPRO's Export Matters webinar. Thank you very much, Conrad. Now we're looking to unleashing export opportunities during and post-COVID-19. I hope you all are well and healthy during these challenging times. A special welcome to our invited guests. First, the Honorable Floyd Green, MP State Minister in the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries. Our overseas buyers, Jack Wilder, Senior Business Unit Manager from FESA UK, and Neil Curtis, Executive Director, Farm Up Jamaica from USA. I would also like to welcome the JAMPRO team, our President, Ms. Diane Edwards, our Regional Managers, Lawrence Jones from the Europe Office based in London, Shane Angus, North America Office, USA and Canada, and Conrad Robinson, of course, you just met Conrad, from the Western Jamaica Office, who is also our distinguished moderator today. Finally, a very warm welcome to all our participants or exporters joining us via Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube, whether in Jamaica or overseas. We are living in challenging times due to COVID-19. We have all had to adjust to a difficult and new paradigm, which will have a lasting effect on how we work and do business. Let us take it in stride as best as we can and explore the potential opportunities. We have an information-rich and packed session lined up for you today. How were things in Jamaica before COVID-19? The economy was moving in the right direction and on a growth path, having 20 consecutive quarters of positive growth. I won't dwell too much on the details here, but I will highlight what the main export opportunities were before COVID-19, as we opportunities will return over the long term. Coming out of a Euromonitor International survey in September 2019, commissioned by JAMPRO, there are three main points I would like to mention here just to frame the session that we have for you today. There was $6.6 to $1.2 million on export potential for Jamaica. 2, top priority categories were lobsters, yams, potatoes, and fresh fruits. 3, main members, UK, USA, and Canada. Throughout the course of the webinar, the team will provide further details on these specific activities, but this underscores the huge potential that existed before, but within an environment of challenges. Challenges which include high energy cost, limited financing for SMEs, low efficiency and high cost of trade, an enabling global e-commerce business ecosystem, and close to my heart, the establishment of a nation brand. Overcoming these persistent myriad challenges will make Jamaica's exports globally competitive and have been seeing a lot of information, and I've been seeing a lot of information around planned and activated governmental initiatives, which address some of these challenges head-on towards bolstering Jamaica's exports. I'm looking forward to hearing more on this from the Honorable Minister Floyd Green. We will also address what are the implications due to COVID-19 and the export opportunities that we can look to know. For example, the potential to provide substitutes for unfilled orders of previously established product lines, which may not become available in the short term. Another example is the establishment of a complementary supply and demand network across the Caribbean. Of note, for example, Barbados and Trinidad have an estimated food import bill of 500 million and over 700 million. Import bill, stands at approximately 900 million. So the opportunities for complementary import-export network is huge. So in difficult times, we must seize the opportunity to drive lasting positive change. What are the medium to long-term opportunities we can begin to prepare Jamaica for? There is much anticipation of a shifting in consumer trends towards healthier, plant-based diets. What investments need to be made to enable an increased use of technology in agriculture to improve yield and consistency? While Jamaica and the world struggle with COVID-19 pandemic now, the hard reality is we have to start establishing a framework for recovery. And increasing exports is critical to ensure Jamaica's full economic recovery. Welcome to you all, and thank you for joining JAMPRO's Export Matters webinar. Over to you, Conrad.
Thank you very much, Gabriel, for that very warm welcome. And at this time, I'm going to go over to the UK, where our regional manager for the European region, Mr. Lawrence Jones, will be taking us through the overview of Jamaican export to the United Kingdom, and he will also be introducing his team in the UK. Over to you, Lawrence.
Thank you very much, Conrad. Good morning. I'm Lawrence Jones. Sorry, we're having background noise there. Beg your pardon, audience. So good morning. I am Lawrence Jones, JAMPRO's European Regional Manager based in London, alongside my colleagues Enid Williams and Camille McFarlane. It is our honor and privilege to work on behalf of Jamaican exporters to find buyers for the many Jamaican-made goods and services you wish to export to the United Kingdom and other European markets. We wish to thank JAMPRO's head office for organizing this webinar. During today's webinar, we will provide a general overview of Jamaican consumer goods exports to the UK, as well as specific export opportunities for Jamaican processed foods and beverages, as well as fresh produce. The United Kingdom, thank you. The United Kingdom is a major export market for Jamaican consumer goods. The value of Jamaican consumer goods exported to the UK per year is approximately 41 million US dollars, or represents 18% of total consumer goods exports. This is only second to the USA, which imports approximately 92 million US dollars and represents 40% of our exports. Next slide, please. The UK has very strong demand for Jamaican-made consumer goods. Most of the products exported to the UK originate from our agribusiness sector, which range from fresh produce to value-added processed foods and beverages. This chart shows the value and proportions of the leading consumer goods exported to the United Kingdom, which include rum, beer, soft drinks, and other beverages and spirits valued at 19.5 million US dollars, or 40% of total annual exports to the UK. Sugar, valued at $9 million, or 18%. Canned ackee and callaloo, jams, and other processed fruit and vegetables, valued at $6.6 million or 13% of total exports to the UK. Sweet potatoes and other tubers valued at $3.8 million or 7%. And sauces represent approximately 6% of total exports, and baked goods represents approximately 5.5%. Both the fresh fruit as well as coffee and tea categories each represent approximately 4% of total exports. Next slide, please. There is indeed untapped potential in the UK for a range of Jamaican food products due to the growing taste for Jamaican cuisine among the Caribbean diaspora and mainstream British consumers. The following categories have the greatest potential impact for increased exports. Roots and tubers currently account for $4 million in export, but have the potential to reach $12 million. Sauces and condiment exports have experienced significant growth, increasing from $2 million in 2015 to $3 million in 2018. But there is an additional $1 million of untapped demand. Also, coffee and tea exports currently account for $1 million but has the potential to reach $3 million in exports to the UK. We should also be aware that British consumers are seeking healthier and convenient foods. Jamaican manufacturers of ready meals should consider producing vegan foods that may be branded as traditional Jamaican Untitled cuisine. And finally, the Afro-Asian beauty market is vibrant in the UK. We have observed consistent and growing demand for Jamaican cosmetic and beauty products, as well as over-the-counter drugs. Jamaican brands such as Irie Rock and Benjamin's currently export to the UK. However, there is significant untapped potential for products such as Jamaican black castor oil. Next slide, please. Today, we wish to focus on fresh produce exports to the UK. There are several trade channels that can be used to export fresh produce. The JAMPRO London office have fostered long-standing relationships with several specialist importers of exotic fruits and vegetables, in addition to being active members of the leading fresh produce trade associations. We would like to reiterate and emphasize that our London office is eager and ready to meet with you to assess the products you wish to export to Europe. We wish to review your products and provide advice regarding compliance with UK and European Union regulations and voluntary standards. We will identify potential buyers for your products and work with you to prepare a marketing presentation specifically for your products. We will present your products to potential buyers and facilitate video conference calls between you and the prospective buyers, as well as help to broker an export contract. It is for these reasons, amongst others, that I encourage Jamaican exporters to use JAMPRO's European Regional Office to market their products, as well as to facilitate negotiations between you and the European buyers. Next slide, please. It is now my pleasure to introduce Mr. Jack Wilder, the Senior Business Unit Manager for Exotic Fruit at FISA. Jack is one of the UK's leading experts in the exotic fresh produce market. He has over 20 years experience sourcing and buying exotic fruits from Latin America and the Caribbean regions. Jack has been instrumental in the growth of FISA, which is one of the largest importers of fresh produce in the UK, with an annual turnover of circa £90 million. Jack has kindly agreed to make a presentation on the current state of the UK fresh produce market and available opportunities for Jamaican produce. So, without further ado, it is indeed my pleasure to hand over to Jack. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lawrence, for that warm welcome. And a good morning to all of our colleagues in Jamaica and indeed around the world this morning. When Lawrence and I first started discussing this presentation, the emphasis was on the UK exotics market and the opportunities in a post-Brexit landscape. I don't think any of us foresaw, and this was even back in end of January, February, the impact of maybe the biggest social, economic, and sure to be financial upset we are currently enduring. And I guess before I get going, I hope you are all staying safe. You and your families are all well in this horrible situation. So with that as the backdrop, I thought I'd give a brief situation update in the UK as to what is happening in the market with the COVID-19 situation. But I guess we really wanted to stay positive, listening to the words of your president, the JAMPRO President Diane Edwards recently. This is about preparing for life post-COVID-19. And I wanted to touch on some of the factors that we as importers look for in exporters from around the world, and indeed from Jamaica. And also to touch on, sure, in December 2020, later this year, we will arrive at Brexit, and maybe touch on some of the opportunities that will present themselves for Jamaican exporters. So before I get going, I just wanted to touch in terms of exotics. Lots of customers cut exotics differently. Melons aren't usually lumped together in the exotic category. However, today I will talk about them separately, as I understand that they are an important opportunity for Jamaican growers. Okay, so in terms of, if I can get this, okay. So in terms of what we've seen across the market, and I'm going to divide the market into three different areas. We start with retail to start with, and that is retail of whole fruits in supermarkets. And we are currently seeing a diminishing volume of between 5 to 10% on whole fresh produce across retail. Now there are outliers on that. So longer life products, we are seeing a small growth. And this is obviously after what we might term the panic buying in the week leading up to the lockdown. But overall, we are now seeing, now that we are in lockdown, we are seeing a 5 to 10% down trading of whole fruit. The fresh cut market, which is an important part of the market, and in which, with my background, I've worked for fresh cut companies in the past, and we as a company at FISA overtrade in fresh cut. Because of the short shelf life nature of these products. So these are largely melons, but also mangoes, kiwi, pineapples, which are prepared and sold in a convenient pack in retail, still sold in supermarkets. Because of the short shelf life nature and because of the lockdown and less people going into offices, we are seeing the sale of these down by about 40 to 50% versus where we would expect to be at this time of year. And finally, the food service and wholesale market, which normally would account for about 30% of all fruit sales in the UK. And this is obviously an area that supplies into hotels, restaurants, pubs. We are seeing a massive impact in this sector and is currently down by about 80%, 80% year on year. So we're having a massive impact on that. So with that as a backdrop, if we just move on to what the world looked like before this. And these, I'm going to share with you some information from Kantar World Panel. This is a panel, as the name suggests, that samples 30,000 households and assesses what the UK sales from supermarkets are. And remember that supermarkets will account for approximately 70% of UK sales. So the UK fruit market at retail is worth £6 billion sterling. It is dominated by banana, berries, strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, and top fruit, so apples and pears. So within the £6 billion, the melon category is worth 160 million, which equates to approximately 8,000 containers of whole melons imported. And we'll touch a little bit on detail, but it's largely Central America, Brazil, Spain, Italy. 8,000 containers per year will come in to be sold as whole fruit. In addition to that, and these numbers aren't included in the 160 million, is approximately another 3,000 containers which would go into the fresh cut salads market. Okay, so that actually sits outside of exotic fruit. The exotic fruit category on its own, which includes the mangoes, pomegranates, figs, persimmons, papaya, lychee, as well as a small volume of specialty products. The exotic category accounts for about £100 million worth of sales at retail. Okay, and approximately half of this is covered by mango. So mango is by far and away the biggest single product within the exotic category. The others make up the balance. Within the dynamics of that 100 million category, as I've just said, the mango, which is predominantly Floridian type, so Kent, Keat, Palmer, make up 90% of the volume. Also, you saw that figs had a very strong performance within the 2019 numbers. But it's true to say that we are in a very competitive market in the UK. Promotions count for a lot of volumes sold, and discounters still are. They're an ever-growing part of the retail landscape, between Aldi and Lidl accounting for approximately 12 to 14% of all volumes sold. And these guys are now really driving the price points that are set on the high street. Even the larger retailers now are having to follow their lead in terms of price points. In terms of outside of these main products, the challenge that we have is that our retailers have really been caught on the idea that all products need to be listed for as near to 12 months as possible. And that is one of the biggest challenges that we find. And that's why at retail, the list of exotic fruits still remains quite a short list. However, we have had success, notably with Marks and Spencer's, where we've put together a basket of seasonal products. And so even at retail, and these are probably the only major retailer listing a basket of products such as rambutan, mangosteen, cherimoya, carambola, and an ethnic mango. Okay, so the bulk of products are sold still tend to have 12-month availability, but there are opportunities for seasonal products. Right. I now just wanted to spend a couple of minutes just talking about what, in my experience, growers sitting in relatively untapped locations should be looking at to assess their position within a market supplying into the UK, and the sort of areas that I would suggest that you look at and understand to understand how to progress your opportunities. So in terms of the product you're looking at, and this might be a mango, it might be a melon, but you should be looking at the varieties that the UK or Europe is looking at, is demanding. And especially with regards to the UK is a market where all retailers sell per piece rather than per kilo. And this is very important because buyers here are looking for predominantly small fruit rather than large fruit. So the choice of variety becomes very important. We also need to understand bricks and the level of blemishes that might be tolerated within a customer. Clearly, you need to understand what the production window potentially is and what climatological impact might have on that. The logistics from source all the way through to market needs to be fully understood. And clearly this is predominantly a sea versus air freight, but weighing up the cost benefit analysis of that. If you're paying $1.20 for air freight per kilo versus 40 US dollar cents per kilo for sea freight, that is a big difference, and you need to look at the impact that will have on the final marketability of the product. In terms of the competition, I've got a small slide that I've pulled together just after this to show, in terms of understanding what the competition are up to, and by that I mean geographical location versus the market conditions in the destination market. And I think it's also very important to have a close look at the types of importer that you're going to work with. Make sure you've assessed the type of importer, how the importer works, and also the terms that you're going to be trading on. Firstly, the Incoterms, but also how and when money will be paid and what you're going to be responsible for. And clearly, as you set out on a project, it's really about understanding the balance between the risk and the reward. It always makes me very sad when I go around the world visiting new growers to hear that a grower was convinced to plant a large area of crop and hadn't, or maybe thought they'd understood the terms that they're going into business on, but it's only really once you get into a commercial situation that it can be, how problems are going to be dealt with becomes fully understood. And it makes me very sad when growers with great potential have had their fingers burnt and have decided that wasn't for them, when really what had happened is they had overextended themselves maybe, and things had gone slightly wrong, which had had a large commercial impact. If that had been approached on a smaller scale with maybe some of the risks shared with the importer, sure, there would have been a better use of that marketing opportunity. So as I say, I just wanted to have a quick show a little bit of an example of how, for example, the melon and watermelon supply in Europe works. And what you've got in January, February, March is the Brazilian supply is starting to tail off as it starts to rain in the main production areas in the northeast of Brazil. And at that point, Central America starts to come into its major production. So if it's Panama, Costa Rica, Honduras, Nicaragua. However, at that point, in terms of the market itself, that yellow line starts to increase as the weather, believe it or not, does start to improve during March, April in the UK. The warmer weather does, especially with melon and watermelon, starts to drive a better pickup from the shelves and starts to drive improved sales. At the same time, by the time we're getting into April, and a couple of things are happening. So the weather is warming up, but also you've got the Brazilian supply is starting to dry up even further, and you're getting towards the end of the Central American season before Spain really picks up. So you've got a really, really exciting opportunity in there, as well as the fact that Easter is happening. And this year, I think that it'll probably pass us by, but Ramadan will also would normally help drive extra sales in this period. So you've got a very exciting period in there, which growers who can manage their peak production for product to be arriving in April and May in Europe have got an excellent opportunity. So if those are some of the production aspects that growers need to be looking for, I think I want to just quickly touch on the accreditation side of life. I think the UK over the last 10, 15 years has really led the way in terms of the levels of accreditation that we expect from growers. That's driven firstly from a food safety perspective, for which Global Gap really is the entry level certification level that we look for. In addition to this, and whilst Global Gap does actually cover a lot of the pesticide regulations, more and more we're seeing that the impact of the non-governmental organisations, the NGOs, the Friends of the Earth pressure that they can put on supermarkets has meant that most UK supermarkets now apply their own pesticide regulations over and above the standard UK compliance. So that's very, very important, given that this will, the supermarkets will consider applications all the way back through to the early stages of planting and flowering. In addition to pesticides, the corporate social responsibility aspect is ever growing. Base level really is SEDEX, and most retailers are now expecting a SMETA or equivalent audit to have happened. In terms of differentiating, clearly organic status and fair trade status are becoming ever important. I ought to say that the UK has its own requirements for labelling on arrival in UK port, as we do for phytosanitary inspections. Okay. And finally, I wanted to quickly touch on just a little bit in terms of the differentiation between producing for a local sale, and if that's what growers have been used to producing for local hotels or the local tourist trade, versus export. If we're going down a sea trade route, which I would expect for main commodity production to go down, there's a 2-3 week window, or a 2-3 week supply chain that growers need to take into account. And any importer will need the grower to own the quality all the way through the supply chain. And that, if you look at products that ripen, so for example, a mango, the UK importer will need the grower to take responsibility for the quality once it's gone through the ripening stage. The UK importer, we depend on the grower doing a job that will last all the way through to market. And I just wanted to point out these 3 or 4 key areas that I think it's absolutely a prerequisite to really study before getting involved in a serious export business. And I really wanted to highlight genetics, because there are, depending on what product you're looking at, there are multinational companies out there, whether it's BASF, whether it's Syngenta, who have spent millions of pounds sterling developing leading edge varieties that will give the taste and appearance, will give the field yield, and will give the shelf life for the product once it gets into the UK. Sorry, will it go back? Oh, thank you. So I passionately believe that any grower who's serious about an export business should be engaging with the world's best genetic breeding programs. And I've got there are in July, well, normally I expect it's going to happen this year in Spain, there will be all the major seed houses will have all of their varieties of melons and watermelons on display for growers from around the world to come and study. And if you're not part of that, you're not playing on a level playing field. The same goes for production techniques, whether that's nutritional application. I've shown there on the top picture on there is a picture of a watermelon harvesting rig. And this, not only does that make the harvesting operation more efficient, but it also removes a whole series of place in the supply chain where the fruit can be bruised, which on a 3-week supply chain can mean the difference between a fruit that's turning up perfectly fine versus bruising and mold developing. Post-harvest controls are absolutely key in making sure that the best applications are used. And I believe a holistic approach to this supply chain really needs to be fully studied to make the most of any opportunity. So that's really what I wanted to talk about in terms of how I believe growers should be looking at export opportunities. I think the next slide, if it's going to come through, is really a quick look at maybe where some of the opportunities lie in a post-Brexit landscape. Clearly, depending on how negotiations get on through till December, there will be a reset of the tariff playing field. And I think Jamaica could easily gain a competitive advantage on this, especially when you consider countries like Brazil have 8% duty slapped on winter melons and watermelons to the UK. But I also do think that the logistics routes that are available to you will be key. And coming direct to the UK on a 14 to 18 day service really is key to make it work for most perishable products. Going through Europe is going to become more risky as the borders become harder to get through with more bureaucracy, more checks needed. So really, to summarize, I think there's lots and lots of opportunity for Jamaican growers to get involved in the UK, and you've got my contact details. Please fire through any further questions you've got that don't come out of this webinar. Talk to us, talk to other European partners, understand the market. But I cannot emphasize strongly enough, I really do believe that new growers should be investing in the best technical expertise, the best production techniques to get themselves on the right level playing field with some of the other players in the world market. You're going to be dependent on the logistics services that are offered to you, and in terms of a post-Brexit landscape, I think you've got a great opportunity, and I hope you can seize it with both hands. I think all that remains for me to say is thank you very much for the opportunity to come and join in your conference today. Thank you very much, Lawrence, for the invitation, and I look forward to any questions that may come either now or later down the road. Thank you very much and stay safe.
So thank you very much, Jack, Lawrence, for that comprehensive overview of the UK market. A lot of information to digest, and I see some questions coming through, which we will be shooting to you guys in a minute. I just really want to thank and appreciate the fact that you took the time out to share with us this morning. We really, really are very appreciative of that. Thank you very much. So ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go across the pond, as they would say. We're going to head over to the North American continent, where our regional manager for North America, Mr. Shane Angus, will be giving us an overview of Jamaican export to North America. Shane will introduce his team as well. And so at this point, I hand you over to Shane. Over to you, Shane.
All right, thanks, Conrad. Good morning, everyone, and I hope you're all being safe and practicing social distancing. Online with me today is my team, Christopher Benjamin from the New York office and Stephen Charoux from the Toronto office. Let's jump right into the presentation. All right, so it's important to note that when we're talking about marketing for the region, we need to look at the base we're marketing for. Next slide, please, Chris. Next slide, please. All right, so we first look at the population of the Jamaicans in Canada, and we find out that we have over 310,000 Jamaicans living in Canada, most of which are in the Ontario area, 88% of that. So one of our key areas for marketing will be that region. In the New York office, in the New York area, US area as a whole, we have over 745,000 persons, most of which are concentrated in New York, Florida, and New Jersey. So why this is important is that they highlight the potential marketing base that we're looking for. So the Jamaican diaspora is actually of key importance to us. The Caribbean diaspora members, other ethnic groups, including Hispanics and Indians, also Americans and Canadians who have been exposed to Jamaican food through tourism and want to replicate that taste at home, and also health-conscious individuals, especially those practicing a paleo diet, which include having more roots and tubers in their diet. So these are the areas that we look for this high concentration, and we target our marketing efforts around these areas. Okay, so where we stand now in terms of export versus our potential market is quite obvious. So we look at a few of the big opportunities here. Fresh produce in Canada is very large. We're actually only 50% or a little bit above 50% of where the market is supplying the market. So we're currently supplying $10 million worth of fresh produce into the Canadian market, but the full potential is actually 19 million. So we're just about halfway there. For the US, one of the biggest opportunities we see is actually in beverages. So we're currently supplying only $50 million worth of beverages to that market, but we still have an additional 33 million of potential beverage export that we can do. So looking at this sheet, it highlights quite a bit of different opportunities in different areas, and beverages actually is strong for both markets as well as fresh produce. Next. Okay. So products with the potential to export, roots and tubers. Roots and tubers have an untapped potential of US $12 million for both USA, Canada, and UK. This includes yam, sweet potato, and cassava. Fresh fruits, on the other hand, mangoes, papaya, avocado, oranges are also seeing a sudden increase over time, and we think we have a big market here. Canada currently accounts for most of the fresh fruit at 2.5 million US, but we see a greater opportunity here in the US for growth as well. Another category that we look at is bread and pastries. Now, this is a huge market, and Jamaica currently exports 27 million worth of baked goods, and this is growing at 2% per annum. So currently, we're exporting a lot of buns, bread, and crackers, but there's a strong market for chips, potato chips, banana chips, as well as other traditional confectionery. Also, there's a sudden increase for us. We're seeing a good increase in, this has always been growing for years, the crustaceans, which include lobster tail and frozen whole lobster. This is growing at an average of 4% per annum. So again, the potential to grow export to the US is great, and to start looking at Canada, as I think our builders touch the surface in Canada. Other potential investment opportunities we find along the way is that for you, the producers in Jamaica, we are having, the distributors here are looking to invest back into the supply chain. This is to ensure that they constantly get what they want out of Jamaica. So they are looking to partner with distributors, with producers local to either one, expand the farming facility, two, invest in packaging facility, or three, invest in cold storage facilities. There's also the opportunity for you, the local exporters, to meet the demand of the importers through consolidation. Sometimes in order to engage a large distributor, we would like for more than one exporters to come together so we can actually engage in producing the goods or delivering the goods that they're asking for. Like any market, there are challenges, and currently importers do face a lot of challenges from exporters. One of them is the consistency in supply. Importers report that exporters aren't able to meet the demand consistently, making it difficult for them to engage clients and grow. This is very important. As you realize here, a lot of the distributors, when they are actually engaging their retail outlets, they have to do forecasting, etc., for these retail outlets. And if they're not able to provide the numbers or consistently provide the goods, then they're faced with a lot of challenges. And one such challenge is really them losing the market to other areas, or the Jamaican, probably Asia or South America. So we have to be very careful and ensure that we can consistently supply these goods. There's also the lack of formal contracts. Exporters, on the other hand, we realize over the years that there's not many formal contracts in the market with importers, and now they're looking more to strengthen that. They want contracts which they can hold as responsible in delivering these goods. Certification of facilities. This is great, another area that we have to look at. Normally, a lot of importers used to take goods without not verifying where the goods are coming from, or if these facilities are certified. This has changed significantly, and the authorities are now clamping down on these distributors to provide the certification or the different stuff needed to ensure that these facilities are actually good for supplying goods. So we are encouraging local exporters to actually invest in the certification of your facilities and your farm to ensure that we can meet that market. Back, please, Chris. Back up. Registered with international bodies for a dispute settlement. Importers want exporters to use international bodies to settle dispute that will arise. And this is very important because we have seen occasions where importers and exporters do clash about payments. If our exporters are part of these bodies, then these international bodies will settle dispute for you and ensure that you'll get your payments once your goods meet the requirement that was outlined in the contract. And there's also the need to invest in marketing. A lot of distributors complain about our exporters not being able to help them to do sampling, etc., in the markets. And they actually want our exporters to help them sometimes by either one, providing the samples, or two, coming on board to give them funding to do some of these in-store sampling. And also we believe that you can work with Jamper to be part of our events when we're going abroad. So you can actually come along and highlight the different products that you have. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my next speaker, who is Neil Curtis, Executive Director from Jamaica. Neil is result-oriented, highly experienced executive with an in-depth knowledge of climate resilience and sustainability. He's a high-energy, process-oriented leader and demonstrates success for maximizing cost efficiency by restructuring processes, reducing spending, and improving the consistency of production while strengthening the bottom line for farmers. He's a strong marketer and proficiency in import-export as he helps transition communities into industries that can produce food for the world, especially in the field of organic food. He's an enthusiastic agriculture-oriented diaspora member and invites diaspora Jamaicans from around the globe to rebuild Jamaica backbone through agriculture, especially organic food. So now we welcome Neil to actually have a discussion around organic products. Neil, over to you. Neil, unmute your mic, please.
Oh, okay. Am I with you now? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I was just saying thank you so much for having me on your discussion this morning. And I think that it's very important to put out the information regarding the whole organic market and how we believe that Jamaica is poised for that type market simply because of its size. We do see where there is a huge opportunity in the marketplace for organics, and I'm pretty sure that Jack can agree with that. Just because you see the whole certification that goes along with being organic is a tedious certification, and it requires traceability, it requires specific grading, it requires a little bit more of the farmer, but you can get a premium for what it is that you're selling. And we believe that if this type of agriculture is monitored correctly and done correctly, we can be a key location for organic food, because we do have all of what it takes to be that organic producing nation. Many of the lands that you look at in Jamaica are in the hills, are in the gullies, places where you probably cannot mechanize farming, right? I mean, a matter of fact, if you look at the World Bank's layout of what Jamaica is, I think they have Jamaica as having about 11% of its lands as arable lands. Now, when they refer to arable lands, they're talking about flat lands that can be tractored, right? But you know, and I know, that most of the farming goes on in the hills, the banana farmers, the yam farmers. But in those hills are cool, so you could probably grow berries, you could grow strawberries and other fruits and vegetables that could be organic, because, you know, again, just with our climate and with the best practices and techniques, we can do things that are up to date and bring good, clean food to the market. I'm just trying to open my notes here, so just give me a second. Okay. And so Farm Up Jamaica, as you guys may know or not, we're a nonprofit organization. We're formed to help reduce the importation of foreign food into Jamaica, increase Jamaican exports, put young people and farmers back into the field of agriculture through organic farming, and to help create, reduce poverty by creating opportunities, right? We've been on the ground for about 7 years now, mostly in the research and development of products and best practices of how we can create organic food, and have a complete comprehensive monitoring system that will make sure that the fruit that our vegetable that's coming out of the ground gets straight across into the market, and make sure that it is what we promised it to be, right? And the consistency to make sure that that product can, if we promised it for 6 months, that it will last for 6 months, and that the farming practices display that. We have had good success in engaging the youth on the ground. We have had some good success in what we call best practices and understanding the lay of the land in Jamaica. Now, people think that, you know, when you get into agriculture, you just get into agriculture. Jamaican agriculture is different. There's different pest pressures. There's different soil types. Those things have to be looked at. We have, over the last 7 years, been able to reduce the time frame that it will take to bring specific crops to market. We've also come up with organic methods and technology to be able to preserve fruits and vegetables for longer shelf lives after they've gotten to where they're going overseas, right? Just a case in point, we had Scotch bonnet peppers, where they would literally, you know, diminish over the course of, maybe 2 weeks tops after landing in the States. And we've been able to extend that for a month, right? And so again, these are all organic techniques, things that are not going to harm the consumer or the fruit over the long term. In addition to that, we believe that the $80 billion market that is available to us as organic is a market that we should go after. Farm Up Jamaica has been preaching this since, again, 2013. And again, we have that market that is continually growing Again, $80 billion market. We've been successful in certifying our farmers as organic in Jamaica. We were the first to certify the turmeric and ginger industry in Jamaica as organic, and that's an international certification. We were and included some 20 or so farmers in the process. We were also successful in exporting lots of turmeric to the United States, and haven't gotten to the Canada or the UK as yet, but I'm sure that that could be worked out, right? In addition, we realize that it's going to take good oversight, and it's going to take giving the buyer overseas what they want without surprises. So when they get that fruit that they've ordered from way overseas, that it looks the way that they thought it was going to look, it's not all beat up. It's, you know, so again, the quality control is going to be very important to move forward now, especially as it relates to organic, because organic food is natural. So sometimes it's not the best looking fruit per se, but it is still organic. And we do find that's maybe a slight loophole for farmers that are not able to bring things up to par, but we do still want our products to look and feel the best. We want to be able to brand Jamaica as this organic haven. And we want to welcome people in from outside of Jamaica to come and taste our organic food. That means we'd love to even get that organic food into the local hotels and supermarkets in Jamaica. So it's not just an export item. But we do want to be able to grade our items and send our best abroad, because again, it's still organic. So whether you have the smaller one or the bigger one, it's organic food. It has no chemicals, no pesticides. And in fact, in the processes that we are using now, we're not even using manure, right? So we are using just reconstruction of soil. Again, new techniques where we find attract less pests and help to take our youth and our farmers to a higher level easier and quicker. Again, another part of it that is very important is that we have new farmers on board. We have young people. We've been training for the last 7 years, people that are 17 to 24 years old. We would love to see a market or an organic buyer partner with some of these younger generation persons as they are ready to become what we call agri-entrepreneurs. And we welcome that, and we can help to guide that along the way. We also have found that the export and bringing things into United States can be tedious at times, especially if you're trying to export an organic product that's not supposed to have chemicals sprayed on the product. And then, you know, you have this fumigation process in many cases that wants to still spray your products, but the USDA has now come up with an organic technology, and they're going to be implementing, or maybe have even started to implement that, so that they have something that is eco-friendly that they will spray instead of the harsh chemicals. We look forward to those types of things. We do believe that Jamaica should stand together in organic, because it just means better health for more people, not only in the island, not only abroad, but also in the island. And, you know, there's a rampant rise in things like prostate cancer, and, you know, even this COVID virus. You know, you hear people telling you that, you know, if you're eating healthy food and you're eating proper, that most likely you will survive even if you do catch the COVID-19 virus. So, you know, when you talk about health, that's also very important as it relates to organic and organic food production. But again, we see where Jamaica, based on its size, is the garden for organic food in the Caribbean. There are so many untouched lands. There are so many under-farmed lands. We look at the major farms and we figure that that is the only areas for farming in Jamaica. But we have to realize that all of those lands that you drive by on the roadside, all of those lands up in the hills and the mountains that are under-farmed and not being used, can be used for organic food production. These lands have been sitting fallow, in many cases for 20, 30 years. Now it only takes 3 years of land sitting fallow to qualify for organic certification. A lot of people don't even realize that. Land that has not been used can easily, immediately qualify for organic certification. And here is where, again, we believe that there's a loophole where Jamaica could move quickly into the organic market. Remember, many of the farmers in the United States, a majority of them, would love to transition their farms from conventional to organic because the price is just more money. You know, they can get more for the produce. They're having a problem doing that because they cannot shut down the farm in order to rest the lands for 3 years with no income. But Jamaica is there already. So we need to take more advantage of it. My name is Neil Curtis with Farm Up Jamaica. I'm not going to take up too much more time because I know I'm probably over. But please, we need to plug in together and get some good things going on the ground.
Thank you very much, Neil. Shane, thank you also very much for giving us an overview of the North American market. We really appreciate that. Neil, there was one quick question for you. I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer that question, but it asks, what are the entities in Jamaica that does organic certification? So I'll just give you a couple of minutes to answer that question.
Okay. So the entities that are working on organic, I don't know that it's 100% complete, but I know that the Bureau of Standards is working on organic certification. Our certification we got from an outside source that was out in Germany. And so there are outside certification bodies that can give you an international certification. It doesn't necessarily have to have the Jamaica certification. Now, if you are just selling locally, then you will need to certify within Jamaica with the local certification body. But if these items are going to be going overseas, you want to find an international certification body to do the certification. And it's a process. They come in, you have to bring them in, you have to pay for their travel, their hotel. They come in, they look at the different lands that you are claiming that are organic. They test your lands to ensure that that you know it is what it is. And of course, the key here is that it's international, right? So you're going to be able to sell that product all over the world. I mean, the last certification that we did, we had even Japan as one of our certifying countries. Now, Japan's certification is a harder certification than even the regular international certification. It's a higher level. And Farm Up Jamaica passed those tests in order to be able to do that. So we do have some great practices that we could share with farmers, share with the industry to get these items certified and out into the global market.
Thank you very much, Neil, and we will make your contact information available to those who are interested in contacting Farm Up Jamaica. Thank you very much again for participating with us this morning.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to now be privileged to hear from the president of JAMPRO, Ms. Diane Edwards, and she will be speaking to us about export challenges and opportunities during and post-COVID-19. Welcome, Diane Edwards, and thank you for participating in this webinar. Over to you.
Thanks, Conrad, and good morning, everyone. Let me first say a really big welcome and thank you to our participants from London and from New York. It's really great to feel that this international, this tripartite energy coming from the markets towards Jamaica. Let me say a big thank you also to our Honorable Minister of State, Floyd Green, who is going to be on screen after me. We really appreciate the participation and the partnership of MICAF in our whole export thrust. Just to answer before I begin, and let me say a big thank you as well to those who are online listening, to those exporters, producers, growers, manufacturers, and those who just want to get into the business. You're all welcome. We need to talk to all of you. And I wish I could see your faces now. And I really hope that you're staying safe and healthy in this period and following the precautions and protocols.
So where were we before COVID-19 interrupted our flow of business?
So best Caribbean country for doing business, according to Forbes, highest performing stock market, according to Bloomberg in 2015 and 2018. We doubled our number of outsourcing companies to over 60 in the last 10 years. And our employment in the industry grew from over 12,000 in 2012 to over 40,000 today. We have seen an increase of 45% in tourism arrivals to 4.3 million in the last decade. We are now voted number 71 or ranked number 71 out of 190 countries in the World Bank's 2020 Doing Business report. So the Jamaican economy was pretty strong and stable and actually poised for growth and for takeoff. Our export performance has been challenging. We have been working to diversify exports, and exports of goods and services is now more than 30% of GDP in Jamaica. Our major export markets, as you heard already, continue to be the US, UK, and Canada. Manufacturing, mining, and agro-processing. And you know that mining has had a lot of challenges in the last year with the decline in the world market price for bauxite. So we are facing a challenging economic environment all around. We have had some performance by fresh produce, but you heard from Jack this morning that the opportunities for fresh produce are alive and well, certainly in the UK market and also in the North American market. And we've seen an increase in non-traditional exports in 2019. However, change is coming in trade, and COVID-19 is having a big impact on exports and on the global economy. If you look at the shock that coronavirus is and really the aftermath, the economic impact is going to have, this is going to be seriously severe. We're going to see a loss of productivity because many countries are in lockdown. Many are ill or recovering, so there are people still in quarantine. People and countries are in different phases of the cycle of this virus. So we're going to see challenges abound and challenges continue. Sectors like tourism have hit other sectors that supplied into tourism, have hit them really hard. Even trading powerhouses like China are experiencing a decline in exports. So we're all going to feel it, and I'm not trying to minimize that. However, we really need to look at how much it's going to impact us and what can we do to get out of this. So some of the challenges ahead, UNCTAD has actually expected a decline of 2% in global trade. 2% is a huge amount, and we are going to feel that in our markets in Jamaica, both our internal tourism market, while tourism is on lockdown, but also in our export markets. Global value chains and global supply chains are certainly going to take a hit. What this means is that a lot of the products that came out of China going into the US, because China was a manufacturing powerhouse, we are going to see now that their supply chain is impacted. And so we're going to see a lower flow of goods into the US market, which will impact our port of Kingston, of course. We see that international manufacturing materials and inputs are going to be harder to source. We're going to see MSMEs having a really tough time managing cash flows based on the demand for their goods and services. But there is a way forward. There is life after COVID-19. A lot of people accuse me of being too optimistic, but I'm not going to apologize for that, because I think it is how we believe and how we manufacture and how we mold our energies towards the solutions that will come out of this crisis period. That is what is going to take us through. So luckily, the Jamaican government has been really quick to seize on what needed to be done during this COVID reacted really quickly to the crisis. I'm sure some of you will have read the Miami Herald, which congratulated the Jamaican government for its response to COVID-19. And I'm sure many of you would have listened to the Minister of Finance and the package of measures that he has enacted to help to stimulate the economy post-COVID. The 25 billion fiscal stimulus package, the 1 billion MSME tax credit, the COVID allocation of resources for employees who have lost their, and the COVID-19 small business grants for small businesses with sales of 50 million or less. All of these are really important measures to help to shore up an economy that's going to take a big hit. And MICAF has also responded, enacting measures to maintain exports. So export by JACRA, the Jamaica Agricultural Commodity Regulatory Agency, have been cut by 50%. So this is going to give a big boost to our exports of coffee, cocoa, and other products. We have been able to maintain stability at our port, and our port is still operating, so it is still possible for you all to be exporting and to be seeking new export markets in this period. We have been able in JAMPRO to help the ministry with the challenge of excess produce of some of our farmers, to find them new markets in the region, and to actually, we have been getting encouraging signs from far off markets like the UK and the US, who are now inquiring after different products. Supply lines have all been disrupted, so it is an opportunity for us to jump in and get in where the opportunities lie. And local bodies continue to finance exports like Exim Bank and the DBJ. So if you look at exporters now who have seen their demand displaced by the shutdown of the tourism industry, there are opportunities. There are opportunities for import replacement. We see opportunities for more linkages. We encourage more farmers to get on to the ALEX platform, which is the Agri-Linkages Exchange platform. There are real opportunities for you to connect through that platform with new buyers that you haven't previously been working with. Agriculture and agribusiness, there's more local demand for agro-processors to use more produce locally. So we can develop more products through our agro-processors that are new and exciting and different, and that will create more opportunities on the local market. The global services sector, the whole IT-enabled sector, and the digital economy, we believe this is going to be a big, big winner out of this COVID period. Many of us have gotten accustomed to working from home, and many of us are enjoying it. I spoke to one practitioner in this industry who told me that his productivity actually is higher now that people are working from home and you're not stuck in traffic. You know the deal. So we feel that the global services sector and the digital economy is a great opportunity. Healthcare products. Jack spoke this morning, and Lawrence spoke this morning actually, about healthcare products and international beauty market. And it's not just about beauty and the cosmetic side, but also about the healthcare side and the demand for natural products. We have real information on this opportunity in the global markets. We've spoken a lot about markets that JAMPRO has identified internationally. So healthcare and wellness definitely going to grow. We expect it to grow. The whole PPE market is expected to grow to 73.8 billion US dollars by 2026. So this is an area that we need to explore. Agriculture, as Neil said, still largely untapped, real opportunities there, and export of services. So we see really, and we have real hardcore information on 61 million US dollars of untapped export potential across the main metropolitan markets that we serve. We see markets for agriculture, we see markets for agro-processed goods in particular, both in our diaspora markets and in the mainstream markets. And we know that with the strength of Brand Jamaica, and we intend to make this really much stronger in the next year. So as Gabriel said, watch this space. We feel that with Brand Jamaica, we are going to really be able to leverage the opportunities that we see in these markets. So what will JamPro be able to do for you? Well, JamPro will be able to open the door to the export markets. You heard from Shane in New York, you heard from Conrad in Montego Bay, and you heard from Lawrence in the UK. We are going to work together with importers in all those markets, help you to find right importer for your product. We are going to work with government, lobby and advocate government for land to be made available to farmers, promote the use of agroparks and more private investment in agroparks, and to simplify the access to land. We think that that is a critical component of delivering to our producers and exporters. We're going to lobby for removal of duties and fees for e-commerce, because e-commerce is going to be a big winner out of this. A lot of people have grown accustomed to having products delivered to their homes, and we're going to start enjoying it, and we're going to want to continue doing it. So we must reduce the costs of e-commerce to our small businesses in particular. We're going to focus on developing a national digital services strategy. As I said, the digital economy, digitization of government services is going to be large after this. And watch this space, because JamPro is going to be launching a national business portal, which is going to simplify and ease your access to government services. And we are going to increase our facilitation of projects, of productive projects. And we are going to facilitate more matchmaking with buyers, with partners, with investors. So JamPro is really your partner in expanding your business, and we hope that you will really contact us for more information. We are here to serve you. We hope that you are enjoying this rich exchange of information, that you're gonna send us a lot of questions, and if we can't take them all today, we definitely want to be in touch with you directly and to answer your questions directly. So keep in touch with us. We have multi-channel access to JamPro through all of social media, through email, through telephone. Even though we are all working from home, our telephones are manned, our contact center is available. The numbers should be there on the screen. So just be in touch with us. Our website is there. You have a friendly JamPro face at the end of any means that you want to contact us. So I'm gonna wrap up now to say thank you once again to all of you listening. Got some great questions last time we did this. So send in your questions. If we can't take them all today, I promise you we will answer all your questions going forward. So thanks for listening. I hope you are enjoying the exchange, and stay tuned now, because I know Minister Green is gonna have some great words for you coming on the end of this. So thanks again.
Thank you very much, President Edwards, for sharing with us this morning. We really appreciate your participating in this webinar. The information you shared was rich, valuable information. In fact, I think you answered a number of questions that came across with regards to beauty products, with regards to logistics, with regards to whether or not we are open for business here in Jamaica. So I really want to say thanks again to our President, Dan Edwards, for coming in this morning and for participating in our webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to remind you all that if you have your questions, I'm going to ask you again to please share with us your questions in the Q&A section. It is that section on your pop-up bar where you have the option of muting your mic, sharing your video screen. You'll also see the number of participants and so on. And there is a little checkbox there, a little dialog box which says Q&A. You can go there and you can share your questions with us. Again, we thank you for participating with us. We are asking you to stay with us, stay the course. The information coming up next by our minister, I'm sure you would not want to miss that. So I'm going to encourage you to stay tuned and to keep sending in your questions. We will endeavor to answer as much of them as we possibly can this morning. If not, we will at some other point do so. Just like to also remind you that all of the information shared in our webinar, it's being recorded and it will be shared with you, our participants. And we really, again, want to just thank you for being here with us this morning. I think Minister Green is ready for us. So I would like to introduce to you the Honorable Floyd Green, MP, State Minister in the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries. And he's going to give us somewhat the government perspective and to also share with us, as Diane said, some exciting news about what is happening in the area of agriculture. Over to you, Minister Green.
All right, thank you. And morning or wherever you are in the world and whatever time zone that is, thank you for joining us as we look at opportunities. I really want to thank the panelists. Really good information has been shared thus far. I recognize as I watched online that the questions are coming in. So what I decided to do, I will condense what I wanted to say. I think our president of JAMPR covered a number of areas. So I'll just make a few brief comments so that we can get into the question and answer segment, because I think it is critical that the questions that you have, that we share, we listen, we learn, and we take that and move forward. I hope everybody's keeping safe, and I think that is where we have to start. It is still a challenging time all around the world, and we here in Jamaica have been taking all the steps possible to try and ensure that our people are safe. That is our foremost priority, the health of our people. And I really want to thank all of our frontline staff members, all of our health workers, our police, our emergency services, who continue to go beyond and above the call of duty. And they really allow us to be able to keep the other parts of government turning while we go through this crisis. You know, in every crisis, I believe there is an opportunity or multiple opportunities. And I think the COVID-19 crisis is no different. Yes, it is a challenge. Yes, our economy has slowed down tremendously. Yes, a number of our sectors are really reeling from the impacts of COVID, especially tourism. But there are seeds of opportunity. And I think the countries that are able to grasp those seeds, plant them now, are the countries that will do well after we get through this crisis. That is what we're trying to do in Jamaica. And Jamaica has remained in large part, especially in relation to trade, open for business. And again, in the same vein, I want to thank all our frontline workers at the ports. They have not missed a beat. Our custom agencies, our plant quarantine, veterinary services, all the ways that ensure that goods come in and goods go out are still functional, are still operational, are still accessible. A number of the entities that fall directly under the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries, like plant quarantine, veterinary services that deals with import and export, or JACRA, have moved to online systems. So you can now completely fill out your application online before products get to the port, and we will treat it with, and then when you get to the port, we will do our inspection regime. So I think one of the key takeaways is that when it comes to trade, Jamaica has not missed the beat. So those of you who are listening, are interested in exportation, I would say to you, we have the framework ready to facilitate the movement of those goods. So don't delay, don't hesitate, don't say, well, the world is in crisis and as such, you're not sure if now is the time. Again, there are tremendous opportunities. In fact, while I was here, I had to step out to share with my friends at ICA, which is the main organization that deals with Latin America and the Caribbean in relation to agriculture. And a number of our regional partners are saying that there are some shortages in areas of agricultural produce because, again, depending on the extent of the lockdown, depending on the regime that has been put in place, some of them have seen significant disruption in their production numbers. As such, that means there are opportunities for us to tap into those markets. What is the local situation in relation to agriculture? I guess, just like most other countries, we have not been spared in terms of the downturn in demand. But one of the pluses is that In fact, we're in probably the best shape we've been in terms of production for the last few years. In 2 years prior, we have had tremendous cycles of drought, and as such, it has negatively impacted our production numbers. In fact, in the last quarter, agricultural production is up 7%. And as such, we are seeing across all product lines, vegetables, fruits, tubers, all our meat production is significantly up. What that has created somewhat of a problem, because with the downturn in demand and with the upturn in production, and clearly we have a lot of excess agricultural items on our hands. Crisis, challenge, but opportunity. To our farmers, we have set up a program where through our stimulus package, we had allocated $240 million to help our farmers move some of the excess, and that has been going well. We have been buying excess produce from our farmers and redistributing to some of our vulnerable areas, such as our children homes, our hospitals, our quarantine areas. And also we have developed new methodologies of getting the produce out by developing package deals, having mobile markets. And again, that is working. Part of what we're trying to do locally is to drive agricultural demand for local produce. We have a brand new campaign, which I hope you have seen. If not, I hope you will all log on to, which is a Yes Fresh campaign, which is a partnership between the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries and our private sector partners to really drive the consumption of locally produced goods, especially agricultural goods. So that has been going well in terms of to keep our farmers motivated. We believe this is important because we want them to get back into the field planting. In fact, April is Farmers Month, and we have been in the message that despite the challenges, despite the difficulty, let us get out into the field to plant. And we have a number of our farmers have answered that call, and the ministry will be working with them to provide various inputs. In fact, a number of our private sector partners have already put in special deals. I know H&L has made $2 million available for inputs to go into the field to get our farmers planting again. So on the supply side, for those of you who are very interested in exportation, we will be able to supply that demand. And we have said to our farmers, again, this is an opportunity. JAMPRO is here, and they will help us connect the dots. On a bigger policy perspective, what I will say, we see this as an opportunity to really drive our agribusiness strategy. In fact, JAMPRO spent a lot of time last year working on pulling together a strategy, an 18-month action plan, and a 5-year strategy to move our culture forward to ensure that it more ties into the business models that work, to ensure that our agri-parks are functioning well, to ensure that we're doing climate smart agriculture, we're infusing technology in relation to our processes of agriculture, but also technology in relation to things like ordering, connecting the market space. We are now in the process of activating, for the first time, a National Agribusiness Council that will lead this charge to tap into these new markets, to ensure that we have the supply side, the production numbers match the demand, and to ensure that we see a clear linkage between the demand locally and external with our farmers out in the field. So we are putting ourselves in a position to ensure that when we come out of this COVID-19 crisis, that we can take advantage of the opportunities that are bound. So I think I have said more than a mouthful. I'm sure that there are questions. I'm here and I'll take the questions as they come. I know I'll be joined by members of the JAMPRO team. And you know, you're only as strong as your team. And thankfully, I have an extraordinary team at JAMPRO who has continued, come guys, continued to function during this time. So I'll turn back over to the moderator, and we're here to take your questions.
Thank you very much, Minister Green. Really appreciate your participating this morning. And I have a very interesting question for you. Someone who is watching us from Cayman wants to know what are the opportunities for the export of Jamaican goods into the Caymanian Islands.
Well, so the goods are here. You know, one of the pluses is that even before COVID, we said to our manufacturers, we called them in, we looked at their supply chains. We said to them, please activate your business continuity plan in case of any emergency. All of them said to us that they would be ramping up production, and they have. So across our manufactured goods segments, we have ramped production. Across our agricultural produce, I say we're at, we've seen a 7% increase in production numbers. So there are excess produce that we're looking to move. What you would have to do is contact Jampro. Contact Jampro so that we can make that link to ensure that we get somebody here who can provide whatever item you're interested in, and that we have on the receiving end somebody in Cayman who can deal with the distribution side. So if you are online now and you have a company to deal with distribution and you're interested, contact Jampro, and we will do the follow through. Listen, Jampro does the hand holding. So there is no matter too big, no matter too small, that we can hold your hand and make those connections. And I don't know if President wants to chip in, but we have what you need.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Diane.
Conrad, I would just like to add to that, that we have a lot of excess produce at this moment. We have really good deals on things like lettuce, cabbage, all the greens that you can imagine putting into your green juice if you're a green juicer like me. We have from potato, sweet potato to yam and all the versions of yam. We have number of spices like ginger, we have cocoa, we have a number of products. So, and then the whole range of fruits, like from melon to mangoes, to whatever is in season now, to eat the apple, all sorts of things. So I think, as Minister said, Jampro is here for you. So just send those inquiries to us by any way you want, and we will respond.
Yeah, and let me just add, we again, because we have had to, a number of our farmers who serve the hotel industry had to really put in strong business models to be able to give that consistent supply. We can provide consistent supply. So definitely things like cantaloupe, honeydew, melons, and our farmers are able to give you a weekly supply of significant quantities. We already have that in place, and they have not come out of the field yet, even though there's a downturn in demand because of the support of the government. So now would be a great time to get your melons, honeydews, cantaloupes, right in Cayman.
And eggs.
And eggs. And chicken.
Yes.
And chicken. You know, pork, everything, to be honest.
Thank you very much, panel, for the answers. So I have a couple more questions, and I'll just go back to Minister Green, because one of the questions that came in is, what is it that the government is doing to make the export process easier? And I think I'll just hint by saying I saw in the papers yesterday or the day before that the fees associated with exports from Jamaica has been slashed by 50%. So perhaps, Minister, you can develop on that in your answer.
Yeah, so, you know, if you were to ask me what is our number one priority for 2020, it is driving exports. And despite everything with COVID, that hasn't changed. In fact, we brought together late last year an export growth team, which Jampro is a part of, which is an entity chaired by the public sector, through my ministry, and the private sector. So it's a co-chairmanship where we look at some of the barriers to exports and we look to reduce them. So one, we did see that some of the fees that are charged across JACRA, a number of our private sector partners said those were barriers to export, that they were too high and that they were causing challenges. So we decided through the stimulus package announced by the Minister of Finance, and this is before COVID, we decided to reduce a number of those fees significantly. So we have cut all our JACRA fees on exports, including cess that were charged on agricultural items by 50%. We've also, at the trade board, cut on export by 50%. We have really given up revenue of over $100 million and giving it back to our private sector partners, which we hope will drive additional export. But that is just one aspect. Part of what we're doing are looking at our processes. You know, one of the things that COVID has done, it has helped us to accelerate some of the plans we already had. So for example, being able to apply completely online if you are trying to access an export permit has been something that we've been working on for a very long time, and trying to get our agencies under the ministry that deal with exportation, like plant quarantine, veterinary services, and JACRA, to ensure that we have an online system of application. I can now say all of them do have an online system of application. So again, we have made it tremendously easy for people to stay at home, to apply, to go through the processes in relation to getting those export permits. Also, please remember there's a trade information portal that we launched last year. It is managed by the Trade Board. If you are interested in exporting any item, you can go on our trade information portal and you can see the various steps that you need to take. Again, we're working on reducing those steps, but at least there is a one-stop shop for all the information regarding exports. So we are taking steps to make it easier. If there are specific problems or if you have specific questions, again, about exporting a specific item line, reach out to JAMPRO.
Thank you very much, Minister. I'll just switch over to Gabriel because there was a question here about branding and how it is that we protect the Jamaica branded products going into these markets. I'm not sure whether or not you can clarify anything that we're doing as a country to protect Jamaican goods going into the US and the UK markets based on the question that I'm seeing here.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. The nation branding is for Jamaica right now, particularly as we try to stem the proliferation of non-authentic Jamaican products across the globe, because we have, as you know, a global brand, a cultural powerhouse actually, and we need to be very proactive in protecting that. So right now we've actually started the process. The Jamaica Nation Branding Initiative has begun. We're actually looking at getting consultants on board in a very short period of time. I won't put myself out there to say that, to give you any timelines, but I would say within a year and a half, we're looking to have the nation branding up and ready. And a part of this initiative, a major part of this initiative, of course, is to establish an authentic behind the actual nation brand. So the expectation is that exporters will be able to have an authentic stamp of authenticity of approval to say that this is a 100% Jamaican product, etc. So therefore, we'll be able to ensure that our local producers, manufacturers, exporters will be able to gain and access the markets to their full potential. So in time, it is in train, and we've started the process, and we're asking for patience for us to come to fruition and to come to market with the nation brand. Thank you very much.
And Conrad, in the meantime, I would just remind our listeners that there is a Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, which is also a sister agency of JAMPRO, which reports to MICA. And they offer the opportunity for establishing a geographic indicator, which we already have on Jamaica Blue Mountain Coffee, and we already have on jerk, Jamaican jerk. And we're looking at Jamaican rum, and we're looking at some other products that can apply to. And what that means is that, like champagne, it protects a region of origin of a product. So champagne can only come from the Champagne region. Other people who make sparkling wine have to call it something else. So that's what we really need to do with more products. We're actually working right now in JAMPRO with some partners out of UWI on castor oil, Jamaican black castor oil. So we need to become much more aware of intellectual property and the opportunity to register and trademark our products and our brands.
Yeah, and for those of us who are into developing new products and new products line, just to indicate, we have a brand new patent act. So it has really put us at the forefront of the patent system across the region. And we're now in the process of ensuring that we get the Madrid Protocol brought into play, so that when you register here, you will have protection all over the world. So we're taking those steps and taking them very seriously.
Thank you very much, panelists. I just have a couple more questions before we wrap. And one of them has to do with logistics. And the question is, with the advent of COVID-19, how do you anticipate that affecting the logistics of getting Jamaican goods to the various markets? And how do you think that will impact exports?
Well, all right. I guess I can start. Clearly, we do expect some dislocation in relation to supply chain and logistics. But again, I think everybody recognizes, and all the international trade organizations have encouraged countries to ensure that they keep their trade systems and their trade lines up and running. And clearly, it's in our best interest. Again, we have not seen thus far significant dislocation in terms of our trade lines or major trade lines. Those are still up and running and still going strong. Clearly further afield markets may be more challenging because of the need for shipping lines, but what a number of people are doing and what the airline companies are actually facilitating is more economical ways to move produce and to move items by air. Because again, with the downturn in the airline industry and passenger travel, a lot of them have had to look to cargo as their new go-to in relation to raising that revenue streams. So we do see that there will be an uptick in the take-up of cargo by airline services. We believe, and we've already seen, that rates are being lowered so that more people will take that as an option. So we believe there will be alternatives. And the critical thing now is to tap into those alternatives.
Thank you very much, Minister. Just two more questions before I hand over to Gabriel, who will be doing the wrapping up for us. One of them has to do, Minister, with bee farmers. They want to know what is the government doing for them. Is there any assistance for them? And how can the government help them to export their products?
Yeah, so, you know, we have really seen significant rise in our honey production through our bee. It was bee farmers, yes? Through our farmers. Again, what we have outlined is a package of support, especially looking at the areas that are most hard hit. A number of our bee farmers did have challenges, but it was more directly related to some of the challenges we're seeing regarding climate change, regarding when flowers bloom and the ability of the bees to produce honey. With that said, I think a number of them have been able to hold their own and are getting an uptick in the sort of demand for honey on the market right now. Jampro, I think, again, and I throw Jampro not because they're here, but because they're good at what they do. I think what the bee farmers should do, I know a number of them have associations, contact Jampro. Let us work with you to see how we can access those markets. Again, Jampro has a significant network, as you've seen here today, a significant network of partners, of Jampro offices right across the world. We do have some of the best honey in the world. Now, clearly, different countries have different regimes in relation to the importation of items like honey. Jampro can walk you through it. So I would say to our bee farmers who are listening, give Jampro a call, reach out to them online. If you already, and I know people do this, people say this, sometimes people reach out to you and they say, listen, I would take some honey in New York, but I don't know how to do it. Don't allow the conversation to end. Let's say to them, all right, I'm going to contact Jampro and see if we can make that link happen. Because oftentimes we think it can't happen, but it can. And we have so many great companies that started from one person who knew of one person here who was doing something, who was willing to put up a little money to get it there and started like that, and then realize there's such great demand and have now become really big companies. So please contact Jampro.
Let me just add to that, Minister, very quickly, that we know in the international market there is a big demand for different styles of honey. Logwood honey, for instance, is one of the original styles of honey that come out of Jamaica. And what we really need to do is work with the Bee Farmers Association to look at the standards, because the standards are going to be critical. You're talking about a natural product. You have to have standards and you have to comply with international standards. But we can develop specialty types of honey that command a much higher price in the market. But it's a long conversation, so we have to start it. So I would encourage, like Minister said, the farmers to be in touch with Jampro. And we will, I promise you, we will reach out to you as well.
Thank you very much, Al. Just one final question. This seems to be a local question, Minister. They're asking about mobile market. What is happening with that?
All right. So, yeah, and since this is the final question, I did see two questions. I'll try, if I remember, when I finish to treat with them. All right. So one of the good things is that we have, as a government, focusing on health, ensuring that citizens are safe. We also recognize that food security is critical. So we have exempted a number of our agricultural, parts of the agricultural industry as we fight COVID. So agricultural transportation, the transportation of agricultural produce has been exempted throughout all the sort of restrictions that we have had. Our markets, while they have been given different times to control the sort of gatherings that we have, our markets have been allowed to function. Part of what we've been doing from the RADA perspective as we move the excess produce is really looking at those mobile market concepts. So we have already started with our private sector partners offering things like package deals where people can buy a box of produce and people go to a specific location and engage in that produce and get the produce delivered there. Now we're going into a phase where, again, trying to partner with private sector partners, we go into communities and bring the produce into the communities. I say two things. The government wants to facilitate this process, not necessarily do this. And it's a clear but important distinction. So thus far, we've started doing some of it. But I genuinely believe that this is a great opportunity for an enterprising Jamaican who has the wherewithal, who has this idea to, right across the length and breadth of Jamaica, work with us at the ministry to move some of these produce through mobile markets. I've been encouraging more Jamaicans to set up e-commerce platforms for the delivery of fresh produce. I know at least 3 have and are working that through, and we want to see more because we believe that this industry will survive after. If somebody can stay at home and order a reasonably priced basket of fresh produce and it is brought to their gate, I guarantee you, even after COVID is gone, they will still want that convenience. So it is an opportunity. So I want to say we're willing to facilitate it. I'm putting out the call here again to say if you're interested in providing mobile market services into various communities, approach us at the ministry. You can reach out directly to me. You can reach out to Jampro, they'll reach out to me, or all my social media handles, Floyd Green JA, or you can email me, FOGreecaf.gov.jm, and tell me that you're interested, what you have in mind, and we'll try to make it happen. 2 quick things that I saw online. One, people always ask about locally, about getting land to go into agricultural production. We are in the process of distributing land, get land that used to be in sugar production into active agricultural production. So 2 entities that you can contact. One, the Sugar Company of Jamaica Holdings. You can reach out to them, send them an email. They can send you a listing of available options. You have to have a business plan. You have to have a proposal, right? And you have to have a long-term vision for what you want to do clearly. Because again, we're leasing government assets. So it has to be able to stand up to scrutiny. But contact the Sugar Company of Jamaica Holdings and also contact the AIC, Agricultural Investment Corporation. They deal with our agri-parks and you can see if there's any land available for people who want to farm. I don't remember the other one, but I hope, it may come back or I'll see it after and respond directly.
Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you, Diane, and of course, Gabriel. Just want to close out by directing to Lawrence and to Shane, because these questions came in. I have products. I need to find a buyer in the UK or the US. Can you guys help me? So I'll just have you answer that, and then we just go over to Gabriel, who will close off for us.
Thank you very much, Conrad. As I alluded to in my presentation earlier, we certainly would wish to do that. That is our primary mandate here, to facilitate the exports. And we strongly believe that that can only be done by understanding the product be exported comprehensively. And that is done by us engaging directly with the exporter, breaking down the specifics of the product they wish to export, advising them on the regulatory and voluntary standards, and going out and matching them with the buyers. We feel that you're going to get a contract faster if the buyer has all the details they need to make a desktop assessment of the opportunity. We can do it the other way and go back and forth, but you don't want 6 months later and you know we're closer to where you want to be. So that initial meeting and initial follow-up discussions, that will help us to help you a lot faster. And I'll hand over to Shane now. Thank you.
No, you answered the question perfect, Lawrence. I mean, that's the exact same answer I would give. So yeah, Conrad, back to you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I hand over now to Gabriel Heron, VP of Marketing at Jampro, who will do the closing remarks and, of course, the thank yous.
Many thanks, Conrad. We've had a very engaging session so far, to say the least. We're a little bit over time, so I'll try and make it as quick as possible. I thought that the session was really rich with information, and you know, I'm anticipating that we'll have a rush of contacts coming into Jampro about the export opportunities that were outlined here today. You got a number of detailed oriented points in terms of the actual figures, the financial opportunities, the actual initiatives that were outlined. One of the more significant ones in my mind was the 50% reduction in export tariffs, which is significant, which I want to highlight before we leave today. But I also want to thank you, the participants, for a very engaging Q&A session. We are mindful of the challenges, but we are now armed with opportunities that present themselves. And that in and of itself allows us to move forward. Thanks to Jack Wilder and Neil Curtis, who provided critical insights into the buyer's world. And I particularly liked this part of the session where we got rich information as to what the exporters locally really need to focus on to get their products into the overseas markets. And that's really what it's all about. Special thanks, of course, to the Jampro marketing team. I'm not going to leave my team out, guys. I'm sorry. For staging this webinar. And of course, our regional managers, Shane Angus and Lawrence Jones, for providing an overview of their respective markets. We leave with a better understanding of the requirements, the demand that is there now, and the export potential. Be sure to contact all of us here at Jampro. I personally prefer if you contact through our website, right, on the contact us page, or you could email us directly, but preferably visit our website and contact us. Thank you to Minister Green for presenting a realistic, compelling, and positive picture on the government's activities in support of driving exports, both during and post-COVID-19. Things will get rough, that is very clear, right? But the response from the government to mitigate the coming challenges has been commendable. And I must say that the number of activities that we see coming downstream, we anticipate that even after COVID-19 has transitioned, we will continue to benefit from these activities. The Jampro's president, Ms. Dan Edwards, who in her inimitable manner framed the export conversation by highlighting the previous and current opportunities, as well as the challenges that we currently have, while etching out a path, even during this period of uncertainty, for us to begin the mapping towards Jamaica's full recovery, with exports being front and center. To our participants, I hope you found this session as engaging as I did. I thought it was very important. I thought it was very timely for us to engage you in this regard. Thank you for joining Jampro's first Export Matters webinar, and we look forward to you being a part of many, many more to come. Stay safe, stay healthy, and let's continue to do business. Thank you very much.